Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising.
Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, Misty Rose Gold, International Success Coach. And today I have with me Deborah Drummond. Did I say that correctly?
Perfect.
Good. Excellent. Well, I am very excited for our conversation today. You have an incredible story that is making a huge splash in the world. So
As we laugh.
Yeah. And we laugh because we know what is behind making that huge splash. We know all the struggles and the heartache and the stretching and the growing and the, oh my God, what the heck am I doing? So please tell the audience why you're here today. What is this thing that we're talking about that has made this splash in the world?
Well, on the side, it's known as the 262 movement. In reality, it is a book and a summit series that have been weaved together to create what we now know is the Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up movement. So there is a book, 262 women, entrepreneurs, creatives, and media, rock, legacy, and tell all. It is 262 women in a book. And when you open, you have a full cover spread of this woman sharing who she is, what she does, and a little message for you to understand why she does it. Beautiful, right? It's a collection of self-funding women from history to now. The Summit series, Stand Up, Speak Up, and Show Up. I have to tell you, I've built 7 companies to date. And in my 20s, my first company, as I was sitting there with my coach and we were nailing down the mission and the vision, the first mission to my first company was to inspire men and women to stand up, speak up, and show up in their business and personal lives. That has carried through. Fortunately, that is the title that we gave to the summit, the speaking positions that go with the book. So together collectively, people go, it's the 262 movement, because that's really what it's turned into.
What is the title of the book?
It is 262 women, entrepreneurs. Here we have it right here. Entrepreneurs, creatives, and media, rock, legacy, and tell all.
Love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
What inspired you to start this project?
Yeah, there you go. Right. So honestly, I was in I owned a holistic health studio. It was the first holistic health studio in Vancouver, Canada, where I reside. And I was working from a women's day book, day planner, entrepreneur planner, whatever you want to call it. And yes, before digital. And it went out of print. And I was like, no. And I went to another bookstore and out of print and another bookstore out of print. And so without sounding like I'm highly aged, there was no Google at that time to go and hit up. So I said to myself, I'm going to make one of those one day. That's it. That's all. I mean, honestly, I didn't write it down on my list and, hold it in my thoughts and, run numbers and all that kind of thing. At that point, I was running a very considerable, successful business around holistic health. And I was doing things like the Health and Wealth series for the Royal Bank. And I was working with corporations introducing, get this, it was a interesting concept to put lemon in your water. That's how far back we're going in terms of preventative health. So that's where I was at in my life. And then as our journey does. And I found myself owning this incredible media company. And I was doing a lot of anthologies and podcasting, radio, TV, and that kind of thing, and teaching entrepreneurs how to do media. That's it. I'm walking across the bridge, these beautiful bridges in my city. First year of our world health crisis. So I was hanging out, going to go meet my girlfriend to go for our walk.
Mhm.
And I really, honestly, I can't make the story any different. I had a very strong, it's time. Like it just, those things that kind of hit you. You're like, it's
Mhm.
time, right?
Mhm.
So it became time. I had just finished with my publicist. We had just finished doing a book for 22 women and 5 couples in a particular business sector. And honestly, it was a massive hit. Everybody was pretty happy, happy, joy, joy. We had 141 million media impressions, #1 in Amazon for 5 weeks. Everyone was pretty excited.
Mhm.
So when I contacted my publicist and I said, hey, you know that women's book I've been talking about forever? And she's like, yes. And I go, it's time. And she's like, hallelujah. And she goes, how many women do you want in the book? And we had just come from 22. So I was like, I don't know. I'll think about it through the night. I'll do a little, throw it out there
Yeah.
and see what comes back the next day. And so the following day, I had a very clear number come to me, and it was 262. I'm going to be straight up honest. I was like, not happening. Not happening. No, thank you. I did 22. It was awesome. It was great. We hit. And I just kept putting it out there, and I just kept hearing 262, 263. And literally, I had a very clear indication of 262. I called my publicist and I said, we're doing 262. She goes, yeah, let me tell you what I think of that. And I said, I've been fighting for 3 days. Get ready. Let's go. So, she's very clear. I'm very clear. I'm like, let's make this happen.
Mhm.
Now, the book, most people come to my company or my book or my media company because they want to do something that is business aligned. They want to do a book, or they want to get exposure to help facilitate what they do in the world.
Mhm.
There's some incredible people out there that do things like on hope and resilience and many different things that are aspects, mindset, and I'm all about it. I'm a big, hey, do a book. I think they're fantastic, and I do that.
Mhm.
But particularly, that's what people come to me for. So that's what I deliver. So I said, look, I want to do a book that is the door opening book, the closing book, the opening book, the book that when you send to somebody for thanking them for being on your podcast, they're like, check this out. Who's
Yeah.
in the book? What are they saying in the book? I said, I don't want to do a storybook. I want to do a full cover spread. When you open up that page, it's who they are, what they do, why they do it, and an invitation to connect if you feel a connection.
Mhm.
So she's like, let's do it. So we went to town to do that. The project is 3 years in total. After about a year in, I was sitting on my late night couch office. And if anyone's an entrepreneur out there, they're going to know that they have a late night couch office as well. Netflix was on in the background, right? I was just working at the couch, working on the couch. And a movie got, how Netflix sends you these movies. You've watched movies like this. You should watch this one too. And so they
Mhm.
sent a movie, and I happened to look up, and it was a movie called Seeing All Red. I'd never seen it before. And I get this, I'm like, ooh, that movie's got, I think it's got Steinem all over it. It felt very Gloria Steinem. So now I love Gloria. She sends a planner, quote for the planner. I think she's done some great things in the world. But I was like, no, thanks again. And I put my head down. I was like, I'm not
Uh-huh.
in the mood for anything political. And I got it. It was like, we sent this movie, watch the damn movie. That's pretty well what I heard. So I watched the movie, and it was the life story of Gloria Allred, whom in full transparency, I did not know the full impact of her work for women in terms of accessibility. So after the movie and watching the movie, I thought, if you can do that, I can do more. And honestly, I feel like I've done a lot for women in the business sector and creating economic platforms. That's been my thing, creating economic platforms for men and women. But this project obviously is strong and lean on women. So I was like, okay, let's take a look at this. After watching the movie, I was, let's just say, so inspired to send a text to my publicist and said, we're changing the date that we're launching the book. We're changing it to International Women's Day. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'll call you tomorrow. So I actually the next day sat and thought, okay, what is this about? And I watched the movie again. I watched it by myself, and I thought, what is it that I'm supposed to pull from this? And that inspired me to create 22 summits in 15 months and have an accessible event for women and those that support women. So for me, that's everybody, right? Come to the summit, be inspired, be motivated, make change. So it ended up being 440 self-funding women hitting the stage within 15 months, 22 summits. Don't recommend it if you ever plan on like having dinner or folding laundry, but but we did.
If you want to live, right?
If you want to live. Yeah, I know. My girlfriend's like, what can I do for you? I go drop some oranges off at the concierge. You know, how good are you at folding sheets? Because they've been on my bed for 2 weeks. It really was, I would say, the stretch to significance at the very least. But we had 191 million media impressions. We had upwards of 6,000 people come to the summit. We accessed from Kenya to Canada. We had multiple people come into the project in terms of authors and speaking. The impact was, it was just, I don't want to say insurmountable, but almost it was happening so fast. You couldn't, it wasn't, you couldn't put a pulse on it. It was just moving. It just started creating momentum until one day I woke up and I was like, you know what, this thing's moving with or without me. And people started calling it a movement. I grabbed a very cool woman and asked her if she wanted to partner up. She's like, let's do this. I always knew when the book launched, I was going to do a 5-year book tour. Because if there's something that I have a strong passion for, it's for words on paper, particularly if you want to make movement or increase your business or those kind of things. So I wanted to always do a 5-year book tour with this book because it was that impactful, and it really has picked up speed. So we've had high level success in media. The speaking rolls over to a streaming channel of millions. It's a televised project. And it has been women who are, the reason it says stand up, speak up, and show up. Yes, you, because I knew I was going to hear 2 things. One, women coming in going, oh my gosh, there's celebrities on the stage. There's women of consideration. I'm not there yet. I'm like, we're not talking if it wasn't meant for you. So let's have that conversation and get you ready. The other one was my lovely colleagues of the 15, 20, 25, and 30 years in business like myself. And they're like, oh, let the next generation come in. And I'm like, you get your butt on that stage and talk about what you need to talk about. So it's like, it's yes, you on both sides and everyone in between.
Yeah.
But it really is just an incredible platform for women and those that support women. Now, men can't speak or be in the book, but they certainly sponsor the project. They certainly show up in attendance. They certainly are able to benefit in all sorts of different ways because that's what we want it to be like. So that's the project. That's how it happened. And here we are. And we just came back from the Emmys.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for listening to that nudge from beyond that said, hey, it's time, go do it. Because I've had those messages hit me my entire life throughout decades. And every time I'm like, okay, I learned not to fight it, not to question it. Most of the time I'm just like, okay, let's go. And once in a while there's a little pushback, but not too much. So I respect the fact that you did it. And now look at the results. And there's 2 parts that I would love for you to identify for us. One is, what impact is this having on the women? And then 2, what impact is this journey having on you?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for saying thank you, because when I met Gloria Steinem for the first time and I had minutes with her as she was signing my book, I had, I said, you know what? I think the only thing that I can think to say to you is thank you. Because there's just no way to encompass, the sacrifice that you had to make. Absolutely.
Right.
The impact that it's having on women, it's interesting. I just got off listening to a WhatsApp message from a woman who was with us to the Emmys. And so just to give context to your listeners, obviously this has been a big movement. And then we were at the Emmys hand gifting ceremony, or not ceremony, but event where we were gifting the book and talking about the book and getting it in the hands of people that can do some pretty incredible things. And so she came along. Now she is one of the authors and was one of the speakers. And she's like, I'm in Ireland. You're going to LA. I am a professional sleep coach. How is it going to benefit me to go and fly to LA, stand there, do the deal, pay to play? We can offer this free to the world because women participate to be able to help make that happen. She's like, how am I going to get benefit? What am I going to do? So we've had lots of conversation. Now she went to the Emmys. She came back. She just called me. She said, every event I go to, I cannot tell you, they are moving people aside to get to me. And all they're talking to me about is, I saw you at the Emmys. I saw you this. I saw you that. I think one of the biggest things that we did for women is open their eyes to possibility. Right?
I love that.
Self-funding is a lonely journey at best. Okay, so we know that. We know that you are, for the most part, people don't have a team. I built a team over the years, but a lot of people hold on to jobs way too long, and they may not have that team. And so you're kind of doing everything. So for them to pull themselves out of the minutia, go put themselves on a platform where they're truly being seen. I teach that. People come to me, I'm so, if I go on one more podcast and not get a call, I'm like, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So look at most of these women were speaking and authoring. I'm like, let's go put you somewhere where you really have the limelight that you deserve. And now let's position you here. So it's more of a mindset conversation. So what this woman is experiencing, women are experiencing, I've got calls, I've got this, it's positioned. We have a media badge. They get to use the media badge. People never used a media badge. They didn't know the benefit of having a media badge before. So I think what we have done is a lot of not only inspiration, but elevation. And we created a platform for women to have true sustainability, because here's the truth. We see it all the time. A sustainable woman, like if you are sustainable, if I can give you a platform and you can come and you can speak and you can draw to you what you need to sustain yourselves, then that is a form of empowerment, because you now are sustainable. And when you are full and abundant, you can do the things that you want to do, need to do, take care of family, do whatever it is that you want to do. But you have more choices, because we've all done things because we had to, not because we wanted to.
I've done it. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So I think that's a really great example of accessibility, no matter where you are, right? We're a conversation over application. You can't apply to be a speaker. You can't apply to be an author. I'm not interested. I thought it was going to kill me. Talking to 440 women, are you kidding me? But it was that process that allowed me to know whom was coming in, what their needs were, if we're the match. If they weren't, I could match them up with many of my colleagues. But I have to say, every woman that ended up on the other side of the screen with me, I'm like, let's make this work. She's like, let's make it work. So there's a we feeling. So there's this community that's been built, all the speakers and authors. No one came and left. There's this massive community, and they're calling themselves the Sustainable Soulpreneur Sisterhood. I'm like, you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. And I understand the value of what it is that you're creating for these women, because I love putting myself on stages, because it does produce that feeling of a bounty. And that's the word that I resonate with the most right now, is bounty. The bounty that is before me, because of the decades of hard work, the decades of dedicating myself to different parts of my craft. There's a bounty before me. And if you know what you're doing when you get on a stage, the possibilities are pretty awesome. But the key is, for me, like you identified, is to connect with people. My most recent speaking engagement was on Friday, and that's what my aim is every time. It's not about me. How good can I make myself look? It's how much can I connect with the audience and create that bond with them. And that goes so much further than just trying to make myself look good and trying to prove that I'm the best thing since sliced bread, like, and I love that you're, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I agree with you wholeheartedly. When the team went down to the Emmys, I said, I have a philosophy. First of all, where we go, everyone goes. So whether the authors or speakers are with us, there's 10 of us. Obviously, there's hundreds and hundreds. I say, where we go, they go. So that's our job, is to support that. But the other thing is, wherever we go, we leave it better than before we got there.
That's beautiful. I love how you're showing up with this. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what you're doing, right? You're going and you're speaking, and you're like, I'm gonna make this place better.
And yeah, that's it.
yeah. And I have no doubt that you are. I have no doubt that you are. Yeah.
Yeah. How can I leave it better than I found it? Like, with my presentation on Friday, we were talking about our filters. What filters do we need to put in place in our minds when we know that we react in a toxic way? What filter can we put in place to then slow it down, put it through the filter, and then come out better on the other side? And I told the audience, I said, well, my biggest filter is I'm here to make the world a better place. Does this make the world better? So my filter is, does it make it better?
Yeah. Well, there we go. No, now I wonder why we're talking, like we obviously have that same philosophy, have the same philosophy. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And you asked about what this has been like for myself. It's been
Yes.
that in self has also been very interesting because yes, I heard the message per se, like you said, took action on it. And as much as we were sharing pre-show, I am a strategic planner. I teach top performance. I run things backwards. I do media and marketing and business plans for myself as well as my clients, right? Because that's important. And I ran all of that. And I knew what we were in for, but a lot of things are unforeseen.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
like negotiating contracts for Emmys and the Oscars. Those are unforeseen expenses. You don't put those into your projections. So I think that
And that's a new conversation.
that's a new conversation. This was not possible 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? This was not possible 2 years ago. And I think that some of it is still very unforeseen. We did our first celebrity show. This is what we can expect. We could have stayed a week after with, meetings and what have you, stay a little longer. All those things are very interesting. It's all analytics and data. But even for myself, I tell you, I have stretched myself in my number of years of life, shall we say, and entrepreneurship. This was a different kind of stretch. Not only was it, we decided to go global, not only was it international, not only was it multiple time zones, not only was it a book of 262, 440 speakers. Now we're continuing. It's 220 speakers a year. Like that's supposed to be better. And now we're going on the road and we're doing 4 live events a year. And so there's all these things that come forward, and you have to be in a place of deciphering. Should we? Sounds good. Let's re-examine, because creativity fuels creativity. And then as that level increased, as we're playing higher, therefore, so did my self-care have to. And there's times when you're so in it that that you're talking to yourself every day. There's days that I got up and I was like, we're too far gone to go back. So we're moving forward. And there's days that you get up that you get a call from somebody that was just so soul filling.
Yes.
But it is a test to task. It was very interesting because that message about on the bridge that I got about its time was twofold. Not only did it indicate that this book needed to come, but I also got a message about doing a marathon in Ireland to raise money for the music industry. It was very interesting because that project started to really build. And then this project kind of bulldozed that project and has pushed it. And someone said to me the other day, and I said, honestly, we built a website. I was talking to She Is the Music from Alicia Keys. We were in play. And the project got pushed. And someone said to me the other day, are you going to do the Ireland thing? I said, I'm sure I'll do at least one marathon, because it got ridiculous, up to 8 marathons. I said, I'm sure I will. Talk to me in 2026. And I said, I feel disappointed a little bit that I had this big movement happen around this music. And this project just barreled over. And I said, I know I need to still do that marathon. And they said, Deb, have you done a marathon before? And I said, yeah, I've done a marathon before. She said, how many miles is it? And I just stopped. And she goes, it's 26.2. I think you're good. I think if you never walk across Ireland, I think you've taken it on. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see how this all unfolds.
Yes.
But because there's a lot of people from the music industry in the book. But how interesting, hey? How interesting.
Oh my goodness. That is so interesting. And just incredible that you're willing to share the things that you were kind of drugged through during this process.
Yeah.
And I know this from massive years of experience of everything stretching me like weekly. I'm just like, oh, here we go again. It's a new week. Okay, now what's going on? But I remind myself there's a beautiful carrot on the other side of that discomfort, the pain, the stretching, the the 2 to 3 Starbucks a day just to get through the day because you're so freaking tired from the last day, right? Like I understand all that. But for
Yeah.
me, the carrot that I remind myself of when I'm in the midst of that is my power is increasing on the other side. And that power is for me to serve other people, not me. It's to serve them. So I'm like, okay, I like the power. I like the power upgrades. That's my carrot. This is what I'm going to be patient for. I'm going to ride this out. All right, now what's on the other side? And then when I see the power increase and how it affects my people, I'm like, oh, the clouds have parted, the angels are singing, all the things, right? So for me, that's what happens when I'm stretched and beat up and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you get on the other side of it?
Well, I'm going to say it's similar in nature
Hmm.
because as someone who's a servant leader, which clearly I believe that I have been a servant leader for a very long time. And obviously those of us that take that stretch of significance or push ourselves beyond so that we can give to others. I think when we see it come back, I was at the Emmys, I was standing because my son was there with his streetwear company. So I was obviously, he's 20. I'm obviously hanging out on his booth, and the book booth was right beside. And
Mhm.
I would peek over or I would send people over or what have you. And I literally saw people clutching that book, like hanging on to it and like kind of putting it up to their chest. And I saw women that we all have seen across stages
Mhm.
immediately outpour, just started outpouring to my team, like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, this, and oh my gosh, that, and I can't believe this, and I can't believe that. And I saw women in their early 30s come up to me and start talking about this movement, and they were super excited. And I was really beautiful to be able to drop what International Women's Day really meant and how that meeting in Germany and how it started, and give history to a day that has not lost its historical value, but
Mhm.
is not really talked about from a historical standpoint, and give resonance back. So I think it was with the book clutching, the movement itself, knowing that it's moving with or without me.
Mhm.
That's super beautiful. And people's response, this should be a documentary, this should be that. I'm like, oh, please, you know what I mean? Wait. But yeah,
You're like, hold on, too much fire hose.
yeah, yeah, too much fireworks. So I think when you work as hard as I have, and when you worked as hard as you have, obviously, when you see the rebound, I was on a call 2 days ago, and one of these women was corporate Warner Brothers, and the other one organized, not what I was doing, but she would take care of the Emmys and the Grammys and the Oscars from a production standpoint. And they left their corporate, I mean, honestly, I was drooling listening to their job duties, right? And they left corporate to go do something more legacy based, and they decided to create a women's membership around all sorts of similar but not similar nature. And so they're telling me, and they're like, oh hey, and someone had put us together that was pretty considerable, and they're like, so tell us about your project. And so I just told them about the project, and they were sitting there and their jaws were dropped, and they were like, oh my, oh, like they were salivating because that was an ultimate goal for them. And they're like, wow. And I'm looking at them going, wow, and they're like, we need to do something together. And I'm like, absolutely, let's do something together. Um, and make this so much more accessible, right? So our thing is about accessibility, which is why anyone in the world can come to our summits for free, right? They can come through summits for free. I have a woman who said to me, she goes, I want to do exactly what you're doing. I'm like, go girl. What do you need? Like,
Right.
there's not that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I do,
so I
100%.
think, I think it's that keeps me going, really, because it's testing. It's testing. Absolutely. 100%. But I also see people draw from it, take what they want and off, and they go and run.
Mhm.
And I don't really question it, because one, I'm too far in, Misty, and two, I keep getting told the next step,
Yes.
and until I don't.
Yep. And that's
Yeah.
just it. That's the life of an entrepreneur. The next step reveals itself when the time is right. So I love that you're using the effect that this has on the women in the audience to fuel you, because I mean, if I were just doing this for me, I wouldn't put myself through all this mess.
No. Hey, 9 to
Not a
5, sign me
chance.
up.
I know, right?
Woo!
Not a
All right.
chance.
I know. I know. the job
Well,
I had as a teenager cooking, flipping burgers in a bowling alley sounds really good sometimes.
right? No responsibility. Show up, clock in, clock out, you're done, and flirt with some boys. Like easy peasy.
You get to bowl for free. I'm like, awesome. Yeah, right?
Yes. Oh
Sure.
my gosh. I have enjoyed this conversation with you. We need to get wrapping up.
Absolutely.
Now, if people are inspired by listening to you, listening to your story, if they want to be a part of what you're doing, men or women, doesn't
Hmm.
matter.
Hmm.
What is one way they can reach out to you? We'll put your other links in the description, but just one way, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So go to debdrummond.com and go to the contact page. There's a 262 tab that'll tell you everything about this project. But if you go to the contact page, here's what people don't know. It goes to me before my team.
Mm.
Mm,
Oh,
I know.
okay.
I know.
I like it.
Yeah. So my team always waits for me to give them indication on what to do, but it goes to me. I truly am an application or a conversation before application. And men or women can be fueled by this project, be supported by this project, be sustained by this project, and honestly be aligned by this project. Speaking, authoring, sponsoring, supporting, cheering on, opening doors. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely. Well, again, thank you for listening and thank you for stepping up to the message that you heard and making such an impact in our world and for women and men.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate how you show up in the world and I appreciate everything that you go through to make a greater impact. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure to be here today and get to know you better.
Yes, likewise. Well, I love everything about you. So you guys, if you love her too, please reach out to Deb. She's amazing. And I will see you guys very soon. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.